My name is Elad Sonego. I'm VP Creative for Viacom Networks in Israel, and I will be moderating this panel about festivals versus brands and technology. Let's start with an introduction round, right? Let's go to Chris. You can start.
Yes, hello. I will speak in English, sorry, in Spanish, because I can't speak in English as well as in Spanish. Thank you very much to be here. Mi nombre es Miguel Barral. Yo trabajo como investigador social y me dedico al área de la investigación aplicada al marketing desde hace más de 20 años. Mi experiencia en el mundo de la música es reciente. He trabajado con diferentes patrocinadores, marcas que invierten en música y también con algún soporte, como por ejemplo Spotify. En los últimos años, como bien sabéis, las marcas están buscando el santo grial, el modo de conectar, de volver a ser relevantes para el público a gran escala, cosa que fue posible durante varias décadas del siglo XX, pero que en los últimos tiempos ya no lo es tan fácil. La música, las artes y en general las actividades relacionadas con la cultura están siendo uno de los caminos donde poder encontrar esta nueva conexión, esta reconexión con el público, con las personas. Y mi labor profesional se dedica a ayudar a mis clientes a encontrar el camino y a evaluar los logros. Creo que esta es una de las cuestiones candentes y calientes, es cómo podemos estimar el retorno real de las inversiones que las marcas hacen en música, en la medida que podamos demostrar fehacientemente y de forma sencilla que existe un retorno y que ese retorno no solo se mide en ventas, sino que también se mide en capital emocional. Creo que las marcas se animarán a acompañarnos en este viaje que es la música de las marcas. Me paro aquí, más adelante continuaré con los compañeros debatiendo.
Roberto.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Roberto Montero, yo soy de San José, Costa Rica y manejo una empresa que se dedica a la generación de contenidos de música, específicamente buscar un vínculo entre la música y las marcas, y nos dedicamos explícitamente a buscar la integración de marcas en festivales de música, cómo es la mejor manera en que una marca puede participar, precisamente para aprovechar esa oportunidad de generar un vínculo emocional entre el espectador y la marca a través de la experiencia del festival, y también cómo poder proyectarse previo y después del festival para seguir una comunicación fluida con los espectadores.
Serge.
Hello, my name is Serge Grimaux. I don't speak Spanish, I'm sorry, but very pleased to be here. I'm here because of Guillermo, my friend here. I'm here also because I created about 3 years ago a little company called Intellitix. We create RFID environment, and in this RFID environment we do all sorts of things. Access control, you probably have been aware of. People have been using these wristbands in many festivals in order to enter. But the ultimate goal that we had was exactly to do something like you just mentioned, is to be creating new sources of income for event organizer and new ways for band to connect with the fans. And we selected nowadays RFID, maybe in the future it will be Bluetooth 4.0 or another technology based on NFC, near field communication or whatever. I don't want to get too technical, I could not, and I'm not that technical myself, but anyway. In order to have something interactive and allow more of the people that are creating content, the event organizer, the one with the ideas, the artists that are making that content existing, if not the really big festivals, the people that buy the tickets, and the one that comes and become partners of it, being commercial or otherwise, to all being able to communicate in the same environment. That's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Parag.
Hi, my name is Parag with UG Strategies in New York. Started the company in 2003, working with events like Winter Music Conference, South by Southwest, and a few others. Basically, we do two main things. One is we represent corporate brands for live music, specifically festivals, concerts, events. Clients are Heineken, Nintendo, 20th Century Fox, a few others, and we basically take them to festivals and activate for them. And the other areas, we do a lot of digital marketing, a lot of mobile marketing, technology-based stuff, again, all focused on live concerts and brands.
Let me ask the hardest question of all. Who and what is this good for? Having a sponsorship and having brands in music festivals?
It's twofold. Basically bringing in a sponsor to a festival, obviously helps underwrite costs for the festival. That's pretty obvious. But the real value for the brands and for the fans is twofold. One, the brand, as you were saying, needs to connect with this audience that, for lack of a better word, has been disassociated with music, basically because the music industry has been in decline for so many years. Brands and advertisers are now the new way of funding things like tours and festivals and projects. So, and brands, brands know that. Whether or not they have the access to the festival is another story, which is where, like us come in. But basically, the brands are able to connect with, hundreds of thousands of fans at a, concert like Coachella or Lollapalooza, which helps them connect with the consumers in general, but then also, their brand is related to some of the coolest festivals in the country. For the fans, it's the opposite. They get to enjoy watching these bands, 20, 30, 100 bands, for a relatively, cheaper cost because of that underwriting from the brands. So, and I think that if you look, especially in the US, the festival circuit has exploded because of that. Every single weekend there's a brand new 3-day festival, and a lot of it's due because of brands investing their money and being able to do that.
So obviously the brands and the festivals, they benefit from it, and also the end user, meaning the audience. How is it good for the bands, for the musicians?
I can jump in and answer your question, but I just want to take off on what you said. There is something which is fundamental to understanding. When you're an event organizer and you're remotely conscious about the experience of your fan, of course, you don't want to do things that are too mercantile. And that's always a fine line in defining how can you go with that sponsor so it doesn't turn into a carnival, because people buy tickets to enjoy. Yeah, that's exactly the vendor of the temple, And at the same time, to give these people that are essential for these events what they pay for, and even more. And the innovation of technology these days allows you a lot to do that. Because like you said earlier, that's the second thing, technology allows to measure things. Before it was a rabbit out of a hat, it was as good as having a frog to tell you it's going to be raining tomorrow. You don't know, you have an idea, but you don't know. Now you can start to measure. I'm not talking about invading privacy. It's trying to about having something, an aspect. And how the bands can benefit from it. The bands can benefit from it and needs to benefit from it because one of the fundamental problems of this business is to find who is the new headliner. And nowadays, finally, thanks to social media, bands can start to be linked, new bands, not the one on the top of the billing, of the poster, but actually all the other rows except the two first rows of a poster of a festival. All these people, and many of them that are there and barely pay their gas or accommodation to be there and playing, now they can connect with their fans. Their fans will know where they're playing next in the club in their cities. They're remotely smart and they have a good manager, they'll be able to market themselves at zero cost. And eventually you'll get the new Swedish House Mafia, you'll get the new, I don't know, Jack White or whatever. And that's what technology can bring you and should bring you.
So meaning once you have a high profile over the social media, this would necessarily make the radars of the festivals beep?
I think it helps, to what you're probably saying, I think it helps quantify bands. Like if you're a talent buyer for Lollapalooza, and every talent buyer wants to find the next top band, they want to be the first person to find the next top band. You got the headliners like, you know, Chili Peppers, Pearl Jam, whatever. Social media allows a band to kind of show a talent buyer who's never heard of them, look, I have a fan base, look, I have 100,000 views on YouTube, I've got 20,000 likes on Facebook, whatever. I think, you know, it's very hard to do that 10 years ago because you couldn't quantify anything. It was all cool factor. It was all who's the manager, who's the label, who's the agent, who's talking about who. You know, the number one rule in the music business is no one, gives a shit about you until someone else does. You know, and I think social media allows bands and independent musicians to show gatekeepers that they have their own fan base that they built on.
I think that, creo que lo más importante también a nivel de bandas, de cómo puede ayudar la tecnología, es que los festivales hoy en día son una vitrina en la cual unos pocos eligen las bandas para que mucha gente los vea. La generación más joven de gente ahora conoce las bandas porque aparece en el cartel de un festival. Entonces la tecnología puede dirigir inmediatamente durante el festival a la persona a conectarse con ese grupo que está viendo por primera vez a través, digamos, de un check con una pulsera o con el perfil de Facebook, y puede seguir seguir conociendo la música de esa banda a través de conocerlo en el punto de encuentro que fue el festival. Fue lo que propició, la tecnología es lo que lo mantiene.
Sí, yo quería también comentar algo sobre tu primera pregunta.
Go ahead, Luis, of course.
Okay. Yo creo que en los festivales se produce algo muy importante, que es que estamos hablando de la experiencia orgánica con la música, que va más allá de la experiencia digital. El gran business de la música, el gran business, la gran energía mundial es digital. Pero no nos es suficiente, necesitamos esa experiencia orgánica. Entonces, cuando el consumidor, cuando un ser humano, ya no me gusta hablar de consumidores, cuando un ser humano está experimentando en un festival, no tiene exactamente una relación con la música, es algo más grande, se pone en juego una comunidad, mejor dicho, una comunión. Cuando yo consumo música digital, la palabra clave es yo. Yo elijo, yo busco mi música, yo decido qué consumo. Cuando estoy en un festival, la palabra clave es nosotros. Y ese nosotros está compuesto de tres cosas. Está compuesto de mis artistas favoritos. Por lo tanto, no estoy hablando de música solo. Mis artistas, estoy hablando de mí y estoy hablando de otros como yo. El resto de gente que es como yo. Es esa comunidad que se crea. Hace una experiencia orgánica muy potente. Tan potente que la marca, cuando está en ese templo, cuando una marca desciende a esa catedral, lo tiene que hacer con sumo respeto de saber dónde está entrando. Está entrando en una comunión. No está entrando en un colectivo de gente escuchando música. No, está entrando en un lugar donde se está ejerciendo un acto puramente de libertad comunal. Y una marca tiene que saber estar ahí. Por la misma razón que si una marca quisiera patrocinar algo en una catedral, no lo podría hacer de cualquier manera. ¿De acuerdo? Pues lo mismo. Cuando entramos en un festival, estamos entrando en una atmósfera muy especial. Y es tan especial que yo he comprobado, por datos, fruto de mis investigaciones, que me contratan mis clientes, no lo hago yo, que hay patrocinadores en los festivales que tienen más retorno en personas que no han ido a los festivales que personas que sí. Un clarísimo ejemplo es Heineken, España. Yo conozco el mercado español bien, con profundidad, y un ejemplo es Heineken. Heineken obtiene más retorno para su capital de marca entre las personas que no van a los festivales que entre los que van. Curioso esto. ¿Cómo es posible esto? Yo tengo mi hipótesis. hipótesis, si me dais un minuto, la puedo compartir. Mi hipótesis es que Heineken, a lo largo de su estrategia de continuidad en la acción, es una decisión estratégica de hace bastantes años invertir no en un festival, en varios, en los grandes. Invierte aquí en el BBK, invierte en el Primavera Sound, invierte en el FIP. Es decir, es una marca que se ha hecho ese espacio en el imaginario colectivo de los festivales. Incluso las personas que no van a los festivales saben que Heineken está apoyando el FIP, que está apoyando el BBK, que está apoyando el Primavera Sound. Y esa gente no sufre, entre comillas, el maltrato que Heineken les da en los festivales cuando cobra una cerveza 3 euros. Por favor, hablemos con franqueza. Ahí Heineken está perdiendo puntos frente al fan que está en la experiencia orgánica. Sin embargo, el que no está en la experiencia orgánica y no sufre, digamos, ese, entre comillas, maltrato, lo pongo entre comillas porque doy muchas gracias a Heineken que invierta en cultura, pero como esta y otra persona no está sufriendo ese maltrato, no cuenta en su debe. No le entra en la contabilidad en la emoción negativa. Y por eso Heineken repunta en simpatía en gente interesada en los festivales, pero que no va. Por lo tanto, creo que para las marcas tienen una fuente de engagement que va más allá del asistente. El festival tiene vida extra, o sea, más allá del propio evento. Tiene vida fuera del evento y eso es una gran noticia, creo.
I couldn't agree more. I just want to say something. My company, we represent Heineken, and we do, no, but I agree 100%. I mean, what you're saying. I'll use one example, Ultra Music Festival. Okay, so Heineken, we work with a company called Corso Communications. They are the production for Ultra, and they also represent the brand. We do the activations. So Heineken, having supported Ultra for the past 3 or 4 years, there's a couple things that happen. One, you're absolutely right. They walk away more financially because they'll invest $250,000, $300,000 into a festival, but they're the exclusive beer being sold, so they walk away with close to $1 million in sales. So that's just a financial reason to do it, right? The other reason to do it is because the Heineken, as big of a brand it is, and it's always supported music, especially electronic music, wants to keep that relevance. So what they'll do is they'll create activations with something like Ultra in 2 different ways. One, they'll help fund the expansion. So now this year, Ultra is going into South America, Japan, and Korea for the 2nd year, all because of Heineken. And there's Red Bulls involved as well, and there's a few other sponsors, but Heineken's the main one. And the other reason is what we were talking about before, is that because they know that they're doing that, and because and it's not just Heineken, it's Heineken's different because it is a product that you're going to buy at that festival. It's not ASICS sneakers, it's not AT&T, where they want the cool factor branding, they want the media, they want the exposure, and then hopefully you'll go back to your computer and buy a pair of sneakers, right? Heineken is it's a quick return. So in order to kind of keep that longevity after the festival, they'll do things like you were referring to. Well, they'll sponsor the live stream, where anyone from around the world can watch Avicii DJ because they can't be at the festival. It's a very big balancing act, because otherwise you come off, gouging the festival and gouging that demographic and that audience. Because yes, you put up the money for Ultra, but you're really walking away with 3 times as much revenue. And you're right, the fan doesn't really experience the brand any other way. The way that they kind of counterbalance that is by doing programs like that, where they will come off nice by supporting a live stream or a remix contest or a band contest or something. But at the end of the day, it's a benefit for the brand. I mean, that's totally true.
Let's make a differentiation of 2 things here. The sponsorship budget and the advertising budget of a company such as your client, Heineken or Ford or Santander, whoever. 10% at max of a budget that we would call marketing, activation, and then advertising and sponsorship. 10% is sponsorship, 90% is advertising budget. Nowadays, the transformation that is happening in order to be successful is we've been, until very recently, exposed to something that should be called disturbing advertising or interruptive advertising. I mean by that, you listen to radio, you hear an ad. You watch a magazine, you have an advertisement printed. You watch a television show, you get an advertisement. It's mass targeted, it's wrongly targeted or at all. Yes, to a certain point, yes, okay, beer will do football match and things like that. But at the same time that this is not pleasant for the we you were talking about, because yes, it's a community before everything else, and it should never be forgotten as a community. Because when you forget that, you forget everything. And the people that made that their leitmotiv are able to sell out without announcing one artist. There are a few of these festivals. It's because people buy the festival. Tomorrowland could announce any DJs. They're not sell out. I mean, many festivals, Glastonbury, Coachella. Coachella never will go on sale without a lineup, but you know that the lineup doesn't sell Coachella, and so on and so on.
Until last year.
Well, it's
Coachella
sold out 2 weekends.
Totally sold out. No lineups.
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah. But last year they actually, I'm not sure if it's totally sold out. But I'm very happy because that means for us it's good. But thank you for the news. But nevertheless, you go from disruptive advertising to the power of the referral, which is what the social media that we're all looking at, that enhance the experience of the people, at the same time allow those brands that spend that money to be able to enter into this temple you were referring to a few moments ago and do cool things with it and not disturb the reason why people were first trying to entertain themselves.
Serge, I think today people are, the young audience, music fans, and the next generation of people, they expect their brands to have a certain responsibility. And then whenever a brand takes over a certain part of our lives, we expect the brand to bring something extra to the table, some sort of an extra activity or some sort of a gift, added value. So what would you advise brands to do? Do you have any good examples, bad examples? And you know, these millennials and post-millennials, even the younger kids today that are the next generation of music fans, they have an allergy to the old-fashioned advertisement. So the whole thing needs to move forward somehow. How do we do it?
Nosotros, digamos, en el caso de un festival grande que hicimos el año pasado en Costa Rica, que se llamó el Festival Imperial, que era de una marca de cerveza, uno de los patrocinadores era la telefónica local. Entonces, el lugar donde se realizaba el festival era un poco alejado, no tenía una buena cobertura celular, y lo que decidimos fue que todo el dinero de esa marca lo íbamos a invertir en generar 2 zonas grandes donde podíamos garantizar conexión wifi para 30.000 personas. ¿Por qué? Porque el consumidor del festival básicamente lo que va a es a vivir una experiencia. Entonces, como bien decía él, en lugar de querer interrumpir esa experiencia, queremos mejorar la experiencia. Entonces, las marcas, en lugar de ir a poner un anuncio gigante, que le agreguen algo a que la experiencia de ese festival sea mejor. Entonces, ese es un ejemplo, digamos, de cómo enfocamos la presencia de esa marca, que era una telefónica, pues. Luego, teníamos otra que era un banco, por ejemplo, que hacía muchísimo calor. Entonces, en lugar de cosas muy simples, en lugar de poner un anuncio, lo que hacíamos era regalarle a todo el mundo un pañuelo, no sé, un bandana remojado en agua de hielo en el mejor momento, digamos, del más calor. Todo el mundo se acercaba a la marca, todo el mundo quería convivir con la marca, y es un branding inteligente. Al final del día, eso hace la diferencia en la experiencia completa. Son las cosas pequeñas que la gente recuerda del festival. O sea, aparte, digamos, de cosas como el streaming, que puede ser patrocinado para que la experiencia se comparta por más personas, son cosas específicas para mejorar la experiencia del festival Y eso es, creo que el futuro de cómo las marcas deberían de enfocarse en patrocinar, algo que pueda hacer mejor el festival.
Real quick, I think it's very important what you just said, because it's not the fan. It's not the fan expecting anything. All they care about is seeing the band. They don't care about Heineken, they don't care about, you know, any of those things. It's the festival, it's the buyer being like, I'm not gonna let you come sponsor my festival, I just throw up a bunch of brands, throw a bunch of signage and, you know, cut me a check. There's gotta be an interaction that benefits the fan indirectly, so that fan comes back and buys tickets the following year at that festival.
Sí, yo creo que hay una cosa importante. No tenemos tiempo, pero claro, hablamos de marcas y festivales y estamos englobando a todas las marcas y todos los festivales. Yo creo positivamente que hay marcas que tienen prohibido por la sociedad estar en los lugares que yo amo. Y es así. Y cuanto antes lo sepan mejor, porque dejarán...
You take it to your heart, like deep inside.
Yes, I know, yes, I know, I saw a lot of times. Tengo clientes que invierten dinero en ganarse el corazón de la gente y no pueden, por una razón fundamental. Porque como business, como negocio, no lo están haciendo bien.
Now I wonder why you're so traumatized, so I really want to hear, be specific. I mean, we're all friends, right? Spray your guts out.
No, te voy a poner un ejemplo muy claro. Mira, te voy a hablar del mercado español, que es el que conozco. Creo que lo que te voy a contar no es ajeno a cualquier mercado occidental. En España, en los últimos 30 años, el sector que más dinero ha invertido en marketing, publicidad, comunicación, ¿quién crees que ha sido? ¿Quién pensáis que es?
Alcohol y tabaco.
Bueno, bien, alcohol y tabaco, pero sobre todo las telecomunicaciones. Vodafone, Telefónica, Orange, etcétera. Bien, son 2 décadas de ser continuos sistemáticamente los principales anunciantes, los que más invierten, los que más festivales patrocinan, más bandas, más de todo. Son las empresas más odiadas por la ciudadanía. Yo tengo datos muy recientes, más del 50% de los ciudadanos españoles sienten antipatía. O sea, no es que les caiga que les dé igual, no sienten antipatía por marcas como Vodafone, Movistar y Orange. Y lo siento mucho, yo trabajo para ellos, son mis clientes y mis hijos viven de ellos. ¿De acuerdo? O sea, tengo un gran interés en que les vaya bien y que me contraten, claro que sí. O sea, soy franco con vosotros, pero la realidad es así. Entonces, cuando marcas como Vodafone y Movistar invierten en la música, en estas experiencias orgánicas, en estas comuniones, no tienen el retorno que desean. Incluso, y os lo podría demostrar, si me dieran permiso, consiguen lo contrario. Retorno inverso. Ya es difícil, ¿eh? Con la que está cayendo, que tú inviertas y obtengas retorno inverso. O sea, no que no tengas ganas, es que te va peor. Eso pasa. Y eso para mí, un minutito más, para mí es un síntoma de inteligencia de la gente. Es un síntoma de inteligencia social. No nos vamos a tragar cualquier cosa. Cualquier pañuelito, si es de Converse, ok, si es de Movistar, no vale, y es la misma cosa. Y Converse es una marca que invierte muy poco y os puedo demostrar que es un retorno espectacular. ¿Por qué? Porque Converse es uno de los nuestros. Ya está. Es una marca comunidad y aprovecha eso. Y como aprovecha eso, puede poner en valor esta energía.
Okay, I get your point. These are your clients, right? These people are your clients. What do you recommend them to do to get out of this? Because this is it's suicide. If I'm them, this is them jumping the cliff here. So what do you recommend them to do?
Yo te lo digo porque me es muy sencillo, porque se lo he dicho muchas veces. Otra cosa es que sí lo ha parado. Mira, es muy fácil. Antes nuestro moderador habló de que los consumidores le pedimos responsabilidad a las marcas. Pero no salvar el Amazonas. La responsabilidad empieza en que tú y yo tengamos un buen deal, un intercambio simétrico, donde haya ganancia por ambos. Si tú me das un servicio con el que yo no estoy satisfecho, ya me puedes montar el concierto de mi artista favorito, que me encanta mi artista, pero no tú. Entonces, la conclusión que yo saco, Serge, es si la marca no crea un puente por donde puede haber una transfusión desde lo bueno del artista a la marca, tiene que haber un puente para que haya circulación de la buena energía del artista. Si ese puente no existe, no ganas nada. Y si ese puente es imposible, no le hagas. No gastes dinero en construirlo. Busca otro camino.
So that comes from digital. Your path to fix this problem is to better use the digital possibilities that are now available. Do I get this right?
Para mí, el camino para solucionar esto tiene que ver con las posibilidades éticas, sean digitales o analógicas, me da igual, sean orgánicas o digital, intercambio ético entre las partes, entendiendo por intercambio ético una cosa equilibrada, simétrica, equidad. Es lo que el consumidor le está pidiendo a las marcas continuamente, equidad. No le está pidiendo, no le pide que incremente el valor y le baje el precio porque sí. Está pidiendo un trato equitativo, equidad. Y eso es lo que consiguen marcas. Por ejemplo, Red Bull ha conseguido eso. Ha conseguido esa magia, ha conseguido ser uno de los nuestros. Red Bull hoy en día es muy curioso, es una cosa muy bonita porque es una integración entre business y art. Eso es una marca que es a la vez negocio y arte. Y no sabes muy bien qué pesa más.
Yeah, no, I'm asking you all this because I think that, yes, it is a problem, but that's a problem that been existing for a long time. And I think that the only way that you can solve a problem like that are communication problems, because most of the problems in this world are communication problems. Nowadays, you can have a dialogue when you're a gigantic enterprise with one single individual, and every one of them, at the moment that you want to entertain a dialogue. Now it's possible, and I think that in this world, that's one of the big benefits of technology is to do that. Otherwise, you don't have a dialogue, and everybody, you separate ways. That's where I was going with this.
Serge, the technology you came up with has really changed things for festivals around the world. And I would like to pick all of your brains just to see what you think the future holds in terms of technology, in terms of brands in festivals, and how does any of these fine people can benefit from it. I mean, we really want to be ready for the future. The future is coming really fast. So, what does the future hold?
In regards to technology, I think that obviously, with social media and all that, that's helped. We were talking about before about how bands can, show themselves, show their work to various gatekeepers or whatever. But I think, and that's only going to improve and help, and that experience is going to get better and better for actually being at the festival. Whether it be, we were talking about in the meeting before, the Minefield program for Lollapalooza, where you can interact with bands, which was like 5-6 years ago, to now where I can get the mobile app, and I can get a festival map and all that stuff, right? That's only going to get better. I think that the next thing is mobile, and really being able to experience a festival without being there. If I'd love to go to Coachella, sold out, but I can either download an app that has a live stream, or I can experience the festival and the content from the festival in some way. AT&T has a program called Blue Room, which basically is the same, that's exactly what it is. You get live streams, you get all kinds of stuff that, if I can't be at the festival through technology, and there's an app that we're talking about called Jukely, that's starting to do that with concerts. Not so much festivals, but with concerts, in New York at like venues like Roseland or Hammerstein Ballroom or whatnot, where I can watch the festival, I can watch the concert from my phone on live stream. And then you can take that, X amount of ways for a brand. If a brand's going to sponsor a festival, they have their on-site activation, they've got their post-event, they've got their digital, they have various legs that extend from that on-site activation. only possible through technology and more so mobile technology.
I think the future is cashless, sorry, and that's where it's going to lead. And when you get there, then at that moment you have eliminated another barricades when you go to events, which is the one that you have to carry money and this and that. And at this point it will lead to something which is also the future, is to better know who's there. Better know who's there for the bands that are playing, for the organizer, for the commercial partner, so you know what to give to people, or at least what could please them. Because I think that technology is now, and the future will be, exactly what's happening in the internet. The first version of the internet was built around information. That's what the internet was created for. Then Google appeared, or you have Netscape, you have other of these gadgets, but Google took over and organized information for us on the internet. Then suddenly there's a smart guy that came up with an idea, Mark Zuckerberg, and then eventually, nowadays, the internet has been built completely around people and not around information anymore. And when you understand this, then you know where technology will lead. And when you're able to know who you're dealing with, then you know how you make the best of that technology, of the internet, and of the future of the digital media as a whole. Because we are animal of communities. We want it or not, we're mammiferian, like the others. Some are 4 legs, we are 2 legs, but we are mammiferian. Only the outcasts live alone. Therefore, any technology that will bring you more together and enjoy more together is a winning technology. Technology that will make you an outcast may be cool, but will be short-lived.
No, totalmente de acuerdo con lo que dice el señor. O sea, definitivamente la tecnología lo que tiene que aportar es una mejor experiencia del festival para el consumidor que está en el festival, ya sea evitando filas o, como dice, sin dinero para poder comprar todo lo que sea que ofrece el festival, o sea, la botella con agua, el merchandising y demás. Y la tecnología tiene que aportar a que haya una comunidad más grande de personas viviendo el festival afuera a través de los live streamings y que pueda interactuar con la gente que está en el festival al mismo tiempo. Eso es lo que yo creo que hacia ahí es a donde va. O sea, ya la última vez que yo fui a Coachella pude chequearme en Facebook con la pulsera y todo el mundo que estaba en Costa Rica pudo ver que yo estaba viendo tal concierto, tal hora. O sea, la experiencia se está expandiendo a miles y miles de personas.
Sí, y yo estoy totalmente de acuerdo con lo que comentan mis compañeros de tertulia. Y añadiría una cosa, creo que la tecnología va a tener algo va a ser muy relevante para los propios artistas. Porque igual que hablamos de marcas que invierten en los festivales, de marcas que sponsorizan, creo que los artistas tienen que entenderse a sí mismos como marcas y su supervivencia va a depender totalmente de que sean capaces de construir comunidades con determinadas personas que se conviertan en sus fans. Y cuando digo fans, no digo su audiencia, porque yo creo que como audiencia no nos da. Una cosa es la audiencia y otra cosa son los fans. La audiencia para mí es toda aquella persona que puede tener acceso a tu obra, puede escucharla, buscarla, compartirla, etc. Pero difícilmente va a pagar dinero por tu obra. Sin embargo, cuando se da el clic al fan, cuando el fan se convierte en tu fan, a partir de ese momento el dinero deja de ser un problema. Quiero decir, solo, digamos, el dinero son 2 problemas. Tengo o no tengo, quiero o no quiero. ¿Vale? Entonces, el problema de tener o no tener, pues cada uno va a tener o no tener. Pero el quiero pagar o no quiero pagar, en el modo fan, cuando entramos en modo fan, esa barrera se desvanece, incluso hasta la irracional, por supuesto, hasta la locura. Yo he podido constatar en mis investigaciones como, por ejemplo, la última investigación sobre los asistentes al Rey de cada año, como sabéis, es uno de los festivales más importantes que se celebran en España, en Bilbao, como las personas con mayores dificultades económicas son los que más han gastado. Y esto lo que nos indica es que el fan, cuando hace uso de su soberanía, de su economía de forma soberana, no tiene barreras al dinero. Entonces yo creo que la tecnología, por responder a la pregunta tuya, creo que va a ser un gran factor para los artistas para desarrollar su marca y crear sus comunidades, porque de esas comunidades le va a venir el sustento para su libertad creativa.
All right, one last question from me before we move to questions from the audience, which I hope you have. Do you? You do? Yeah? All right.
Are we that boring? We're that boring, huh?
Are you asleep? Are you awake? Who's awake? Two. Okay. Two.
Get some Red Bull and Heineken.
So, do you think we're gonna have? We can expect like a hostile or a friendly takeover by brands over at festivals? I mean, do you think we're still gonna have independent festivals with a perfect integrity and the love of music, or because we see more and more brands creating their own festivals? So what's going to happen? I mean, you could be a bit apocalyptic if you like.
I don't think it's going to get that bad, but there's two examples. I mean, well, three. Okay, so regular festival circuit, Lollapaloozas, Coachellas, Glastonbury's, etc. Brands are going to continue investing, and hopefully gatekeepers are going to say, yes, you can do this, no, you can't do that. Then there's festivals that are completely owned by brands. And going back to Heineken, there was a festival called Amsterdam in New York, and it was all Heineken. It was, you know, not just the fact they were the exclusive beer, but everything was done through Heineken, and it was a concept they took from Amsterdam in the Netherlands with this whole mashup concept, where bands like Tom Petty could mash up with, you know, a DJ like Junior Sanchez, and it was a really cool festival. Lasted 3 years, and it was completely owned, 100% top to bottom by Heineken USA. And that was an example of a festival that was very creative, very unique, had its own little niche, but because of that, didn't necessarily survive to the level of the Coachellas or whatever. And that's actually when they started getting involved with a festival like Ultra. And then there's a third example where, yes, there are festivals that will not have sponsorships. And one of the best examples is a festival called All Tomorrow's Parties, which is in New York, which is upstate New York. It's curated by guys like from Sonic Youth and Arcade Fire and, you know, just really eclectic, amazing bands. And there's zero sponsorship. I'm tending to think that that's going to be less and less. You know, Pitchfork Festival is another example where they're kind of like on the All Tomorrow's Party set, but they definitely have a lot of festival sponsors. Will they have the Heinekens? No, but they'll get like Strongbrow or, you know, some smaller beer festival sponsors. So there are a few festival examples where they will not take any sponsorship, but it's very few and far between.
I don't want necessarily to contradict what you're saying, but I think it's important that you realize that Coachella that you mentioned, you never see a sponsor, but they are sponsors. Coachella. Oh, Coachella. You don't have Ford presents Coachella. Tomorrowland. You don't have Heineken or Red Bull or whatever, but they're there. They're sponsoring, but they're sponsoring it in a completely different manner that another festival would be having a headline. It's a decision that these guys, Golden Voice, Paul Tollett, the guy that created Coachella, and Skip and Bill decided. And did they offer? When we started the wristband 3 years ago, they were offered $1 million to put a brand on the wristbands. They refused because they want to ensure this. And I think it's going to go that way more and more. If you really want to engage with the fans of the festival, then you go, and then you just disappear. You make yourself disappearing, therefore you make yourself appealing. I mean, it's human. The lady that you want the most is the one that seems the most difficult to have. I mean, it's exactly like that. That's human. That's the way we work. And then, I mean, of course, there's some part of entertainment will never be like that. Sporting events will be sponsored, and there is no big obvious there. I mean, a race, I mean, a Formula One without a sign would be in another century. But, I mean, when you call music, when you call something that comes from the soul, or something that changed your life, when something that not only you could have without paying for, you shouldn't have the invasion of the brands. And as a matter of fact, I mean, you should watch a video. Greg, what's the name of that video? That it's from Lollapalooza spoof. It says, I want to see this brand, and oh, I want to see that brand. If you go on YouTube, I think it's Brand Festival, is that would be the name? You have to go on YouTube and you would just plug in these words. Brand Festival. If you could put it on there, I don't know if you have access to the internet, and if you go on YouTube, it's hilarious. It's about like 3 minutes of a festival that basically is a brand festival. And at a certain point you realize they're not talking about the band anymore, but they're talking about the brands. I mean, it's, anyway, it's exactly where you don't want to go.
One thing I just wanted to add to that, I mean, Coachella is definitely a very unique example because, I mean, first of all, Lollapalooza C3, I mean, it's blatant. I mean, it's the Bud Light stage, the PlayStation stage, this and that, right? It was fine, it's fine. But Coachella, everything you said about Coachella was totally, they skip the page, they would turn down sponsorships, they would be like, no, I don't want this. Up until 2 years ago, when AEG bought Coldways. Now, you go to the Coachella website, there's H&M, there's PlayStation, there's Heineken, there's Red Bull, it's all over the place. And I feel like Coachella is probably the only example where, yes, because of AEG, just because of just funding in general, they have to take those sponsorships. But you're right, when you go to the actual festival, and it goes back to what you were saying, the way Skip and Page say, listen, H&M can come in, but they have to activate in a very certain way. They have to be able to do this and not do that.
I have to correct
to keep the integrity of the brand.
First of all, AEG bought Golden Voice, but didn't buy Coachella.
Right.
It was 8 years ago, and not 2 years ago. And Golden Voice, I've took apart Coachella from AEG exactly to prevent this to happen. And even then, it didn't happen. I don't know where you get that. Bring the website on. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the same website address, and I don't want to argue with you. But I'm telling you, I know these guys quite well, and they're very careful about that. They're not going to go that route, and they could make millions.
Solo voy a decir algo pequeño. Es que cuando los festivales son tan grandes como Coachella o Lollapalooza, la marca es Coachella y Lollapalooza y creo que no tienen sponsors, tienen marcas que pagan por asociarse con ese concepto. Entonces no lo están abaratando porque son dueños de un concepto, una marca, algo muy específico, y la otra gente simplemente paga por tener un espacio en la fiesta de alguien más. O sea, pero no están facilitando de que el festival suceda. O sea, el festival puede suceder indiferentemente. Entonces, hablando del futuro de las marcas van a buscar festivales más pequeños en los cuales pueden tener un papel más protagónico o inclusive hacer su propio festival boutique en el cual pueden identificar un público y un segmento de meta desatendido. Pero los mega festivales grandes, o sea, lo que pagas es un espacio y si lo sabes hacer correcto, vas a llamar la atención de la gente, cierto grupo pequeño de gente que va al festival. Pero no es un sponsor como presenta.
Thank you. I think we'll take questions from the audience. Someone's got a question? Because these guys can keep arguing if you like. Yeah.
Hola, una pregunta. Bueno, tengo un estudio de diseño que trabaja estamos digamos en otros planos y representamos a promotores y a la música. Entonces, respecto a lo que tú comentabas, creo que eres sociólogo, ¿verdad? El tema de que haya marcas que tienen el territorio totalmente perdido, ¿no? Como una empresa de telecomunicaciones y todo esto, estoy totalmente de acuerdo en que en muchas ocasiones la comunicación, la inversión no garantiza un buen retorno, sino que puede ser incluso negativa. Yo creo que también tiene que ver con cómo lo planteas, ¿no? Igual una empresa como tú dices, Movistar o Orange o Vodafone, lo que tienes que hacer es un ejercicio extra de humildad y de cercanía, pero no hablo en cuanto a la comunicación genérica, sino en cuanto al festival, ¿no? Yo recuerdo hace 3 años en Coachella, que tuve la suerte de estar, y la percepción que yo tenía en Coachella de las marcas era mucho menor que en los festivales de Europa. O sea, igual me falla la memoria, pero creo que el escenario principal no estaba patrocinado por ninguna marca. Había un espectáculo brutal de iluminación, pero no estaba patrocinado por la marca. Y recuerdo, por ejemplo, que sí que había una zona concreta de comunicación de marcas, creo que era Sony, por ejemplo, que patrocinaba un espacio que era todo de robótica y de desarrollo de tecnología a través de universidades que hay allí en Estados Unidos, ¿no? Entonces, que creo que muchas veces una empresa como Movistar, en el caso aquí de España, sí que tiene un territorio, un espacio en el que meterse dentro de un festival. Evidentemente no lo va a resolver mediante pañuelos mojados, por ejemplo, o mediante el patrocinio de los cubrepeas de un escenario, porque ya se da por supuesto su poder económico. Pero sí que muchas veces un ejercicio, pues a lo mejor más humilde, de apoyo, de acompañamiento, en un pequeño escenario, a pequeñas bandas, pero de un apoyo no solamente de ese día, sino a lo mejor de un recorrido de todo un año, o elementos que, como hizo Henke en su día, tengan un desarrollo durante todo el año, sí que totalmente es aprovechable, en mi opinión, como diseñador.
Claro, sí, yo me he puesto un poco apocalíptico. Sí. Lo que te digo es que una marca que tiene más de la mitad de la población en antipatía, haga lo que haga, pesa sobre ella una sombra. Entonces, lo que tiene que empezar es a poner el contador a cero. Y a partir de, claro que tienes legitimidad y permiso social para proponerme cosas que me interesen, pero si ordenas tu casa, si no. Entonces, mi consejo, como preguntaba él, mi consejo es pon en orden tu casa y luego actuar. Pero si no pones en orden tu casa, no gastes. Se te está yendo por un sumidero de dinero. Incluso está generando retorno de eso.
Next questions, please. Yes.
Quizás es un poco absurdo, pero al hilo de lo que estamos hablando del retorno inverso, es por eso igual que Vodafone tiene la carpa en el BBK, por ejemplo, la que más aguanta, hasta más malvada o tal, porque igual el público que va a esas horas ya le da igual que sea Vodafone, o sea, igual es absurdo, pero igual para mí es importante.
Sinceramente no lo sé. No puedo contestar una pregunta tan concreta. No lo sé.
I think it was a punch rather than a question. Yes, next question, please.
Hi. I pretty much agree, I mean, with all you said before, but I wanted to make a question straight to Serge, because I think you made some good points, and also to Miguel. You're talking about communion, cathedrals, experiences, community, and brands, but at the end, I don't think you're going to engage with the brand or feel identified just because it's standing there. I think brands should be doing much more in an interactive way to make that experience cross those limits of order which are set till now. What do you think those brands, in which way or which stance those brands can really proactively, give us more than just standing there? Because, for instance, these things about hating or not hating those brands or feeling aligned with their philosophy or with their products, I think this is the second stage. Once you leave the festival, maybe you think, oh wow, these guys from Vodafone, they have spent a lot of money, but still they are ripping me off. But you will think that once you get home, not when you're in the festival. So how should they engage with an added value?
An example, I think the best way to give you an example, without naming the brand leader of the festival, there was something that was done in 2012, which I think gives you an idea of where it should be going, and it's a good case study. That festival had a sponsor. That sponsor wanted to spend some part of its advertising budget, the activation budget, into trying to engage with fans. Talking about a major festival in the United States. And they, instead of me, because ways to engage with fans sometimes would be to give you a cushion so you can go sit on the floor so it's comfortable, or a cap, or a bandana when it's hot, or things of that nature. But they wanted to go and try to use the unique digital way that they could have if they could only knew better, like I was saying a bit earlier, it's in the aim of what you want to hear, I think, who they're dealing with. And therefore, they organize a contest whereby people participating to that contest and would end up having a prize. There's nothing more boring than a contest to start with. I mean, how many contests do you have in your life? I mean, from the moment you get up in the morning to the moment you go to bed at night. I mean, Jesus, you have to have a contest. Yeah, that's it. So far, you can tell me that's your idea? No, not exactly. Check this coming. So, in order to have people engaging in that contest, they came up with a concept whereby they would help the bands present for people to participate. There were several, actually 22 places on the festival side where people could register for that contest by using the wristband that they had used to come in, personalizing this wristbands. So there was a profile that was created by the event whereby they were asking name, whatever, surname, date of birth, and then postal code. And the postal code is important in the rest of what I'm going to say. And therefore, they could also, after, register, these people could register using Facebook. So you would do that, and then you would link your Facebook profile in the database with that wristband. So suddenly you start to have information about these people. And when they would go on site on 22 locations, every time they would live click, like tap their wristband the same way when they get in to get a green light, they would register to win that product. Now, every time that they would do that, at the same time, there was a deal made with a company that, let's name it, with Spotify. It could have been Deezer, but that's it, Spotify. And that company, before you were in front, the 22 places where you could register or live click were in front of stages, or tents, or place where, or cinema, or dance stage, place where there was some artistic presentation. Now they were enhancing a link in between that person and that band. And then, in order to stimulate all that, there were some places where you could go, and you had a camera, you would take a picture that was framed with that commercial partner, and then suddenly it ended up on your Facebook wall if you register with Facebook, and you, if you're in Costa Rica, your friend, I mean, but it's not Coachella. So they would have known you were there, and then you participate to that thing. It spinned off a fantastic way on how to start to engage and eventually give much more. Not only to the festival, because now the festival was able to, for the first time, access budget money that normally they don't touch. Activation budget, they don't touch. They touch sponsorship budget, but the budget for the caps, or the budget for the free drinks, or the cups, they don't see that. But now, because they enabled this, they took a share of that activation budget, so more money for the festival. The fans were able to link with their friends, and with their bands, and at the end of the day, they would receive a playlist from Spotify composed of all the bands that they have seen during the day. So now they start to spin music and discover a new band. And on top of that, there was a winner at the end of the day, and the contest became something quite brilliant. And yes, even if that brand is not necessarily, I don't think it's a hinted brand, I mean, not as much as your telcos anyway, but when they walk out of that, the audience, the brands, everybody was a winner. I can tell you, yes, they scored points on all levels. And it ended up, for you to know, it ended up to have over 100 million explosion on the multiplication of the live clip on the Facebook walls and everything. So it was a gigantic success. And all that I'm interested in, and you're a designer, so, I mean, you people that are creating things, the more you will integrate this kind of way where you can now access this digital community, make it connecting with the live community that is there. Everybody wins, and probably your telco's friend will be loved one day.
I think this wraps it up very nicely. We really have to finish. Thank you, gentlemen, for participating. Thank you all for coming. All the panel members can be available for